history projects often come about because communities come to a moment in time when they say to themselves, we need to do something. The Kinsley Library is extraordinary. Joan Weaver and the community of people that she works with and works for are really some remarkable Kansans. And they recognized that they were losing some of the members in their community that could talk about the transformation of their county.
We were talking one day about how people, it's probably after one of our older people died, and their stories are being lost, and it would be fun just to interview them and find out what their life was really like.
And so Rosetta and I decided, as a treat for the librarians, we would go out and interview some people in those areas.
We found out that they would talk to us, like the World War II veterans, better than they would their family.
Everybody has a story, and so when we would sit down with somebody, they would usually start out saying, I don't know why you're interested in me, I've never done anything. And then they'd start talking, and somewhere off the cuff they'd make some reference, and we'd say, well, now tell us about that. And so we got lots of interesting stories.
You think of things that you wish you'd maybe told somebody about things that's happened in your lifetime, or something that happened that might be interesting to somebody else. And she had several people in the community come in here and do that very thing.
Well, once we had the oral histories done, I realized that they really weren't accessible. And so that's sort of when we started to look around and say, we have these tapes, but they're sitting in a box and they need to be used. And we need to have them transcribed. And at that point, I became aware that the Kansas Humanities Council had some heritage grants that would allow us to get money to pay for transcriptions.
The Kansas Humanities Council has partnered with the Kansas State Historical Society for a number of years on the Heritage Grant Program. These are small grant awards intended to help local, usually small organizations better maintain and take care of their own historical and cultural resources.
The Kansas Humanities Council played an integral role in us being able to do this. As a small library in a small town, we don't have a lot of money. And so it was very important that we get the grants in order to have the funds to do the transcriptions for the interviews.
I think these productions, and I feel they are productions, are interesting, they're stimulating, and they're educational. And the exchange of ideas, it really makes you think.
There's so many reasons that it's important for communities to do this. From a library's perspective, it makes us relevant.
I think what she's doing here at this library is wonderful. She has accomplished way more than I have knowledge of knowing.
This project, I think, is important to me as a historian, as we wanted to preserve this.
I can't imagine why more people don't do it. I just think this is priceless.
Joan recognized that it was as much about preservation of the stories as it was about community.
I was raised in Offerly. My dad had a grocery store.
And he said, Eva, I just heard on the radio that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
The soldiers would throw their addresses off the train as it went slowly through Offerly, and they wanted somebody to ride to them.
And so not only did she invite these people in to tell their stories, she documented it through her recordings. She put some of the stories on YouTube. She threw a big party so people could hear the stories of one another, could talk about it, could ask questions. Oral histories are about recording the eyewitness to history, and they're living it. So I can't wait to see what happens next.